One Question is brought to you by Turnkey Search, a top industry search firm since 1996.
Greetings, this is Tai Brown and welcome to One Question. Our guests today are Coach Andrew Althoff, who is the Assistant AD for Sports Performance, and Coach Josh Nelson, who's the Director of Applied Performance. They're both at Baylor University. Thanks for joining us today, gentlemen.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us, Tai.
Today we'll talk about technology in strength and conditioning and athletic performance. And both of you guys have a wealth of experience and history, specifically you, Coach Althoff, in writing about technology and how it aids what you guys do in this industry. The first question I have for you is, how has technology enhanced the ability to keep student athletes healthy and help to better prepare them for competition?
Well, Tai, I think, if you look at the way we have used technology, it's really allowed us to see it as a dashboard for our athletes. So we've got some high-level athletes, everybody does. And I think technology has really allowed us, just like we're driving down the road with a car, we can see the speedometer and the odometer, and we can see the RPMs revving, and it gives us an objective view of what we're working with on a day-to-day basis, whether we're training, whether we're competing, and it makes sure that we're giving our guys and girls exactly what they need to achieve elite performance.
All right, so you've seen it, and you've been in. How long have you been?
I've been here going on 4 years.
How long have you been in the industry, though?
Going on 10 years now.
All right, so you've seen how the technology has helped to improve what you do.
Yes, sir, absolutely. And I've seen it from the Division III small college level to now here at Baylor, and it's amazing what the potential is there.
Right. Coach Althoff, of course, you have a wealth of experience too in this area. In your opinion, from the athletic performance and strength and conditioning perspective, what has been the biggest tech innovation that has helped the industry to do its job better? Or maybe what is the biggest game changer that you've seen?
I think, starting out, we come out as Division III guys, so we're blue collar. We're used to not really having much. So when we first started coaching, it was whistle, stopwatch, pen, paper. That's all you needed. And now with as technology is kind of spreading, it's really kind of looking at it two ways. I think the first one is like what's actually happening to the athlete. Okay. So we have things like GPS to manage and really kind of see what the actual load is at practice and in competition. And if you know what that is, now you can kind of rewire or reverse engineer what training looks like. So if I know what the beginning of fall camp looks like, or if I know what the beginning of the first week of practice looks like, then I know what my athletes need to be prepared for. So if I have an 8-week off season or a 12-week off season, I can take that time and build up and make sure that they're ready to handle the thresholds of what they're going to incur when camp starts or whatever that their sport is. And what that's going to help do is hopefully keep those athletes available, because it's not necessarily like what the stress that they get, it's how that stress is applied and how strategic it is. And we want to make sure we manage it so we give just enough so that the athlete can adapt to it. A little too much and they're going to get hurt, and a little not enough and they're not going to be prepared, which might lead them to being hurt. So it's really just kind of finding that Goldilocks zone from a training standpoint.
So you mentioned GPS, that the technology out there allows you to do a lot of those things you just mentioned.
Absolutely. So, you want to look at, there's internal loads. So what is the body, how is the body responding? So what's the heart rate? What's the breathing rate? How's their body weight changing on a day-to-day basis? And then you have things like, the external load as far as like what's actually being put on them. So like how fast are they running? How many changes of direction? And then using technology like GPS, or there's some other technologies that kind of help us manage athlete readiness on a day-to-day basis and kind of take all these things into consideration. And so what's being done to the athlete? How's the body responding to that? And then that'll help us kind of determine what we're going to do moving forward.
Right. And of course, GPS is relatively recent. Coach Nelson, you had an interesting perspective when we were talking earlier about what you think the biggest tech innovation was specifically for the athletic performance, strength and conditioning industry.
Absolutely. I think it goes way back to initially when you look at sport video, and I think that was a major revolution because it gives us the ability to look at past performance and to make feedback with our athletes on a one-on-one basis, whether it's training, whether it's competition. And then I think moving into some more recent things, it may be more communication. So, I'll let Coach Althoff kind of talk a little bit about that. But
video's big, and then the thing we talk about all the time is information doesn't lead to behavior change. So like if we're not able to take the information that we know and communicate it to coaches or to our athletes or to administrators, then it doesn't matter if we have the best data in the world, because we're not able to relay it or make a sudden change. So we have to be able to understand our audiences and communicate accordingly. Otherwise, the best data in the world doesn't matter.
Right. Well, specifically, Coach Nelson, on that video, I guess when we're seeing, if you have more eyes seeing more athletes by watching the video and seeing who's doing things wrong or who's doing it correctly or what needs to happen so this person won't keep injuring the same thing over and over again, or those type of things. That's a pretty interesting answer. I was thinking currently, but you're right. Video is pretty.
Yes, sir. And I think it's led to more recent things. If you look at the way we collect data now from a GPS stance, from other monitoring devices we use, it models exactly the way video technology was put in place and the way the data is captured. Its ease of use. It's really been a pioneer for future and new technology.
Yeah. And that goes back to what we were talking about, like the coach's eye. I think. We can get really wrapped up in, how fast did he run here, or what's his heart rate, and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, like the coach's eye sometimes is the biggest predictor, or really the best thing that we can use is, and then using tape allows us to kind of watch it over and over again, but kind of use the experience that we have of actually, okay, how are they responding? How are they running? Did they make the wrong cut here or the right cut there, or are they out of position? And that's a big deal. And then it also allows the athletes to see it too. They can kind of rewind and kind of relive the history of practice or of a game.
Well, we're sitting here in this great facility down here that Baylor has, the Big 12 Conference. All the schools here have, the resources to be able to apply. Some of the listeners to this one question, might not be in a position to make heavy investments in new technology. For programs out there that don't have an abundance of resources but want to make some type, maybe even just one or some type of investment in technology and science, what would you recommend for them that would make the job easier? For football coaches, it would help them focus better on health and well-being of student athletes, and then make the job, of course, of the strength and conditioning and athletic performance coaches more efficient. Is there anything specific that somebody could invest in?
I think the simplest thing is what we do, and kind of before we got some of this tech, was what we call self-report questionnaires. And so what we'll do in that case is we'll take an athlete's body weight. We'll ask them how much they slept last night, how good their sleep was, how well they ate and hydrated the previous day, how stressed out they are, willingness to train. And a lot of time, and honestly, we'll ask them even how hard they thought practice was. And that is a really accurate measure, not only of, okay, well, if they perceived practice to be really hard, either it was really hard, and the GPS data will tell us that, or if they perceived it was hard and it wasn't really hard, then chances are they have something going on outside of the facility or outside of practice, right. And that allows us to kind of figure out what's going on. Okay, so you got a bunch of tests going on. I see you're not sleeping. Yeah, coach, I'm cramming for this test, or, I got, my mom's sick and I'm trying to get home to see her, and, things along those lines. So it kind of, again, helps you build a relationship and also understand that there's more to these athletes than what the, handful of hours we see them today. We might see them for 2 or 3 hours a day, but the athlete that they are is going to be determined by those other 21 hours. So whatever we can do to build a relationship and kind of get more info. And then again, we're trying to teach these kids how to live the rest of their lives, right. Not just the 4 hours that we're with them. So, hey, you're not as fast at practice when you don't sleep very well. Like, do you feel like you're not as good in the classroom too? Yeah. Okay. Well, let's remember this, and let's maybe get another 20 minutes of sleep or 30 minutes of sleep. Right. We're not asking you to get 10 hours, but can we get 7? And just kind of create the conversation and build a relationship.
Well, that seems like a pretty simple system somebody can implement if you're talking about direct feedback from players or from athletes on sleep and on how they're feeling and how practice was. Is that, I guess in the simplest form, is that something you give them every day on a sheet of paper, or is there some type of...
Any day we practice, we'll take it. And so we create a Google account, and we use Google Docs and Google Drive just to kind of submit the survey, and then that'll put it all together for us, and we just kind of keep track of it on a day-to-day basis on Excel. Right. It's really simple. Again, no budget. You can do it dang near for free.
Right. I guess on a grander scale, there are technologies out there that help with communication that you guys probably use. I know a lot of companies use Teamworks, or I know what are those systems called that people use that help with communication?
Generally, they're speaking, they're an athlete management system or an AMS, and basically that's going to manage at different levels, all communication with athletes, all data that is collected in and around athletics, and then different people around the athlete will have different access points. So, for example, an athletic trainer may have more access to the information than a academic person, where a head sport coach may have much more information than an assistant coach who may have only their personnel that they have in their position group. So those AMSs are wonderful for keeping things streamlined, keeping things in one point, and to make sure that communication is held true.
All right, and it sounds like communication is probably the base of basically anything, is communication between athletes to coaches, strength and conditioning, athletic performance, trainers, everybody who's involved. So if I did have $1 to spend on technology in my budget, and that's all I had, figure out a way how to get that towards communication.
Yeah, and everything's going to build off of that, because if the communication's not in place, then all the data is just going to bottleneck. Like, you got to have the communication piece in place on the front end, and then you can build off of that. But again, if you got all kinds of data and you can't communicate it efficiently, then you're just going to be wasting your time, and you're going to get really frustrated in a hurry.
All right. Well, gentlemen, this has been great. I appreciate you guys taking the time out to speak with me here on this topic that I'm not sure those outside of the industry understand the significance of it and understand exactly how it's applied. So I appreciate you guys taking the time with us today.
Thanks for having us.
Appreciate it.
No problem. That was Coach Andrew Althoff, Assistant Athletic Director for Sports Performance, and Coach Josh Nelson, Director of Applied Performance at Baylor University. And this is Tai Brown, signing off.
And that's today's One Question, brought to you by Turnkey Search, a top industry search firm since 1996. One Question is designed to give D1 Ticker subscribers valuable insights on how executive leaders in college athletics think about key issues on their respective campuses, in their departments, or within their leagues and conferences. One Question is brought to you by Turnkey Search, a top industry search firm since 1996.